Well, Michael, thank you for sitting down with me and having this conversation. I'll be honest with you, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. You are an idol of mine, and I want to be half the storyteller that you are. And it's crazy because you don't live that far off Route 66.
Nope.
But growing up, you were also living on 66. Is that right?
Well, growing up in Missouri, I was born at the end of World War II on an original alignment of 66 in St. Louis County. And my house, I like to say, was about as far as Stan Musial, my idol, could hit a hard ball.
Okay.
So, yeah, I grew up with Route 66. It was the highway. We called it just Highway 66, the highway. And that's what my family took when we went up to Chicago to see kinfolk. A big yellow school bus to Springfield, Illinois to see Lincoln's home and tomb. Yeah. And then on trips going west. That was the way I really like to go. I'm a Missourian, so I was born looking west. And all these trails and traces came out of Missouri, the California Trail, the Oregon Trail, the Santa Fe Trail, the Pony Express, and go on and on. And that's how I saw my first oil pump jacks and cowboys and all of the great sites, either manufactured sites or natural sites along the way. So it was just part of my life.
So you had a fascination with it from a young age?
Well, not necessarily a fascination. I had a fascination with what the road provided to me. It was a conduit. I learned how to drive on 66. I bought my first car in Pacific, Missouri on 66, a 1955 black, red interior, stick shift, 6-cylinder Plymouth Savoy, owned by the proverbial little old lady. It had no miles on it, and that was my first car. I did my first courting on 66. Going to root beer stands and cafes and drive-in movies, And then as both a student and when I was a Marine, I hitchhiked the road. So I knew that road incredibly
up and down
well. And as a reporter, journalist for many years, I covered the good, the bad, the ugly on 66. And so I had occasion to really live, albeit sometimes for a short time, but I lived in every one of the states except Kansas, which is one of my favorite stretches. That little 14-mile comes out of Joplin and drops down into Mickey Mantle country in Oklahoma. So I wrote the book because I got tired of people talking about the road in the past tense,
Yeah.
Ike Eisenhower signed that new Interstate Highway Act in his hospital bed at Walter Reed. He had a heart attack. So it took from the mid-50s to the mid-80s to decertify the road, to build those super slabs, as I call them, those interstates that parallel it. 55, 44, 40, 15, and 10. And so it was a strangulation, a slow strangulation of the mother road. And it was painful to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure.
As more and more places got bypassed. Maybe they didn't get an off-ramp, or this happened or that happened. But nonetheless, in the late 80s, I was convinced I needed to write a book to let people know that 66 is still there. 85% of it plus. I could keep you on 66 damn near the whole way. And you have to understand, 66 is very fluid. It changed alignments
Yeah.
and so forth. I call it still a work in progress. It really is, because it's always changing.
It's evolving, yeah.
Always evolving. And so that's why I sat down and wrote that book for St. Martin's Press, my old publisher. I'm now with Norton. Because my editor, Bob Weil from St. Martin's, years later moved to Norton, and Norton has published many of my big books. But when I went out on tour for the book, we made trips up and down 66, but going west, I had a whole entourage behind me in a big van, publicists, music helpers, and we'd pick up more people along the way. And I was riding,
More people joined in the caravan.
I was riding in a vintage ragtop red Corvette, and everywhere we stopped, people would come out. I mean, I signed books at a funeral home. I signed books at a bait shop. I signed books in a graveyard.
Wow.
And I signed books, of course, in bookstores and shops and museums.
So there was an itch there. People were enthusiastic about the road.
Oh, yeah. Because they went back to press 3 times and I got out there. And, you know, that book just soared. It's a little over 1 million copies. It was the first of 3 Pulitzer nominations. And it definitely ignited the Renaissance. And that makes me so happy. I'm very pleased with that. Not just for me, but for the people along the road, the people along Route 66 who are still there, and new ones are coming. And the people are always the best resource.
Right.
They're the ones you need to see and interact with.
It's made an impact on real people's lives in real places.
Definitely. Absolutely. Here's the deal. You know, I'm looking at you, but right above your head, I see Route 66. I always see it in my mind's eye. It comes out of Chicago, winds down to the land of Lincoln, and makes its way through St. Louis, across Mississippi, on down the Ozark Plateau and going westward. But what I don't see is, I don't see state lines or county borders or city limits. I see a seamless, winding, crooked road all the way out. And I always say this ad nauseum. I've said this thousands of times, but it's true. I go back to the old quote, the old adage that straight roads, like those super slabs, those turnpikes, which might as well be airport runway. Straight roads are roads of improvement and progress, but those crooked roads are roads of genius. 66 is a road of genius.
What does it mean to slow down at this point, or where we are now? And I know we're at the Centennial year, but what does it mean to re-emphasize that idea of slowing down in such a fast-paced world?
Well, you know, 66 today, the Mother Road, is best enjoyed. It always has been. Yeah, but there are tourists, there are touristas out there from all over the world, and we can get into that. And that's fine and dandy. But it's really tailor-made if you're a traveler.
And there's a difference.
Big difference. You know, the classic ugly American tourist goes to Italy or France and immediately looks for the Golden Arches. And they don't get into the land.
I love that.
Into the people, into the culture. But a traveler absorbs the road. and talks to the people, eats their food, sleeps there, interacts with people all the way. It's a great road.
That's how you get in touch with the culture of the actual place that you're traveling to.
Yeah, and Route 66 can be a trip of so many ways. Now it's, 66 is in school curriculum, K through 12. Universities have courses, read my book, Kerouac, Grapes of Wrath, go out on the road and write a paper about it. It's American studies, it's history, it's geography, it's cuisine, it's music. It's all of the above. And that's why it's a good teaching tool.
You have this incredible ability to capture almost the 360 version of a place and a story. And I've heard you talk about your father before, and how pivotal was he in your ability to see this world and capture it in a story?
Well, both my father and my mother were obviously key to my life. As I said, I was born at the end of, after the war just ended in 1945. Route 66 was not even in, it was just 20, was still barely a teenager. So I grew up in a family with two older sisters, one 16, one 14. They were a whole head of me. So I had three mamas. I didn't need to learn to walk till I was 4.
They were taking care of you.
But it was ideal. And then growing up right near that highway, so they gave me so much and were so important. But family vacations, and we'd often be out on that road. I still remember how they begin. My dad would pack up, usually he had a Plymouth, he'd pack up that car and there'd be our gear and baseball gloves and fishing gear, and my mom would make a big box of sandwiches, and we'd have thermos bottles and everything. And when he backed down our driveway and those tires touched that pavement there, the vacation began.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
It was the classic old biker saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey. So the journey began there. So my father and mother weren't gypped out of a single moment, and neither was I.
Wow.
And we took to the road. Then it became sort of adversarial with my father because he was a father of the 1940s and 50s. So what was he interested in doing? Making time.
Making time.
That was meaningless to me. I want to stop here.
Yeah.
There's a teepee, whatever. I was always begging him to stop. He very seldom did.
So you had a sense of adventure and discovery even from a young age.
Oh, even from a young age. But often he would stop, and I saw all these places. And he'd drive until it was dark. Then we'd find a mortar court to go to, and I was always glad he found one with a pool. And my mother would say to him before he went in, all mothers said this to their husbands, go in and look at a room before you check in and see it. And he'd say, okay. And he'd go in, and he was back very quickly. I know he never looked at a room. In some of those rooms, I wish he would have looked at, because there were banana beds, and squeaky water coolers. Anyway, it was great. It was I just treasure all those memories. I do. But I'm also quick to point out I never romanticize Route 66. Never. I do a whole talk on diversity on 66. If backing down that driveway, I would have been a little 8-year-old African-American boy.
Different story.
The trip was totally different. And that's why it's so important. In the last several years, we've resurrected information and shown people what's called the Green Book.
Yeah.
And it's a book developed by a postal worker in Harlem that was useful throughout, all the way through the civil rights movement of the 60s. And then sometimes it would still be useful today, but it showed people of color where they could sleep, where they could get a meal, where they could get gas, where they could go to the bathroom, for Pete's sake.
Isn't that crazy?
It was just awful. It was just awful. So it not only saved a lot of embarrassment, it actually saved lives, because a lot of towns were sundown towns, which means you better not be in town when the sun goes down. And this was not true just of Route 66. This was the whole country, not just the Deep South, but where I grew up, St. Louis, very racist. I mean, racism was all over the land at that time. And in many ways, it still is, but it's one hell of a lot better. And thank God for the Green Book.
Yes. So when we talk about storytelling specifically, you know, and you said you don't over romanticize Route 66. How important is it to call balls and strikes in order to let folks draw their own conclusions about the story?
Well, you got to. What you need to understand about me is, I was a journalist for many years, since the late 60s. Then I started writing books, okay? In the late 1980s, and my first book came out in 1988, the biography of Frank Phillips, Birth of Phillips Petroleum for Doubleday. And I went right from that into the 66 book. That was my second book. Now I've published 20 books. But what my readers, what critics, what the audiences know about me is they're gonna get straight talk, because I believe that research has to be impeccable. And I pick subjects to write about, like Billy the Kid, or Pretty Boy Floyd, or David Crockett, or the Donner Party, or Belle Starr, all of them, a lot of books written about them, but they don't tell the real story. And you have to. So what I do is I surgically cut into that myth and legend and peel it back, all the lies and innuendo and tall tales, and I present the real story, invariably the best story, the truest story.
And probably the most human.
Absolutely. It's all about humanity, yeah. I do that a lot. Of course, I've written a lot about the frontier in the Old West, and my shorthand for that is there were some white hats and there were some black hats, but there were one heck of a lot of gray hats.
So when it comes to legend, I mean, in storytelling, there's always these legends and myths. How do you, and I mean, that is part of some great storytelling. How do you,
Absolutely.
How do you balance the truth with legend?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of legend and myth, and I think it certainly has a place in our lives and culture, but it doesn't really have a place in the books I write, non-fiction books, biographies of people or a road or a place or a time. It has to be told straight.
So, and I mean, you told so many stories, you know, with Wild West, and then it evolved to Route 66. When you see people out, and you've been on Route 66, every inch of it, and you've had these conversations, you've interacted with the people, when you, this is maybe a pretty broad answer, but what are folks out there looking for when they're on Route 66, in your opinion?
Well, people that travel Route 66 there are many things they may be looking for or anticipating. Again, the tourists are just, read everything and seen all the films, and they're part of all that's come out during this Renaissance. So they're expecting to see the Blue Whale, or to see the Wigwam Hotel or whatever, and that's fine and dandy. But the travelers especially are looking to find the true spirit of the road, and that means they find remnants of all the incarnations of Route 66, from the wild 1920s, the dirty 30s, the 1-2 punch of Depression and Dust Bowl, those important war years, after the war, the heyday years, and then the slow death of 66, and now, I'm proud to say, starting in 1990, the revival.
Yeah.
And this is not going to end when the calendar turns to 1927. This is only a new beginning, because this road is a road of alternative energy. It's so many new people, new places. It's now like a linear museum.
Yeah, it is.
So they can experience America before we became generic, the real America.
So you were just recently appointed to the Congressional Commission for Route 66. And
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Joe Biden, yeah.
And how important is Route 66 to the narrative of American history and evolution?
Oh, well, it's exceedingly important. It's the whole timing was great in the Roaring '20s, and the geography was great because it comes out of that city of big shoulders, Chicago, and it's anchored by two big cities. So it really gives you a path that didn't exist all the way down. And of course, a lot of it is made up of old trails and traces that have been linked together.
Yeah.
The road might have been born in November 1926, but it wasn't until the late 30s that it was fully paved. And it's always been a work in progress.
So how important was it that Cyrus Avery put in his efforts to bring it, to kind of pull it south through this area?
Right. Well, Cyrus Avery, who, like me, is a adopted Tulsan. He came out of Pennsylvania when he was a young man, lived in Veneto, Indian Territory, and then down here. He was a driving force in what we call the Good Roads movement. He was a state highway commissioner, a businessman, an entrepreneur. Then he got involved with this other commission, the big commission that was planning these roads. So he is appropriately called. He was the driving force and made sure the routing took the path that it takes now. Not a southern pass down through into Arkansas through Fort Smith, not a northern route, but this route. And of course, he made very sure that it came to his adopted state of Oklahoma,
of course,
and through his hometown where he had business interests and so forth. But
so it was a little bit selfish.
Well, no, it's what I call smart. But he was a wonderful guy, and it just so happens on that November 11, 1926, when they road commissioners, they'd meet different places. They were meeting in Springfield, Missouri, and that's when the telegram came in, and all the fuss over names and numbers was over. It was the birth announcement. So I love every inch of the road, but I have no problem allowing Springfield to call themselves the birthplace.
Right.
That's fine. But here in Tulsa, and it's trademarked, we are the capital of Route 66.
I love that. I love that. Over time, there's been some incredible artists that have been drawn to Route 66, and this goes from the beginning to even now with the revival. What is it about Route 66 that attracts the artist?
Well, it attracts all artists, whether it's good for the written word, for film, for canvases, for music, and it always has been. And it's the arts have greatly proven really responsible for Route 66 staying alive. You have things like The Grapes of Wrath, probably the most important novel of the last century, that is Steinbeck's great book, and hence just a short time later, John Ford's film version. You had Jack Kerouac's On the Road. You had Bobby Troup right after the war, another fellow Marine, going out west to meet his idol, Nat King Cole. He and his first wife, Cynthia, that's when they picked up the road and going west and wrote the lyrics for Get Your Kicks, our anthem. He got out to LA, got with Cole. That was Nat King Cole's most requested song, more than Mona Lisa.
Wow.
And now it's been re-recorded hundreds of times by everybody from Depeche Mode to the Stones and, Asleep at the Wheel. And also in the 1960s, speaking of artists, we had Sterling Siliphant's great TV series, Route 66, with my old buddy Martin Milner, and George Saharis, that ran from 60 to 64. I love that series. And it was one of the first TV shows shot out on location, albeit many of the shows were not even close to 66, but a lot of them were, and it was that spirit of 66, these two young men riding around in a Corvette like knights errant, like two Don Quixotes, setting things right wherever they went. Little do people know that Siliphant, at first, they weren't going to have a Corvette. They didn't think of that. There was going to be a Ferrari. And then they're just coming out of production, or pre-production, and they realized, hey, it should be an American car. So it became the Vette. So you have that. Then, of course, you have my book, but you have, and I encourage all of, now we have tons of books and writing and journalism about Route 66, and so many great films, documentaries, but even feature films from the old days, one of my favorite films, and I've written a lot about it, Easy Rider, 1969. A lot of it shot on Route 66.
It's just a beautiful road to shoot on, isn't it?
It's a beautiful road to shoot on.
So I want to dive in a little bit about the film Cars and Pixar and how that came about, because really I don't know as much as I should. And how did you get involved with that project?
Well, it was in the early 2000s. We lived in Santa Fe in the late 60s and the early 70s, but we always kept a place out there, and I was out there kind of hidden away doing some writing. And Suzanne is back here, and she called me one day and she said, John Lasseter, the head of Pixar, is dying to talk to you. You should, I didn't give him his number, you should call him. So I called him, and I got on the phone, and I could tell he was delighted. He said, there's the deal. I'm so glad to talk to you. I've worn out 3 copies of your books going up and down the road with all my kids in the van. He said, what we want to do, we out here are children of the car culture of California. We want to make a film And all the characters are vehicles, cars or trucks, and they are animated, of course. And the main character is going to be a race car who's just full of himself. And he gets lost, he gets detached from his character on his way to a big race and finds himself on an old road, a 2-lane road. And there's only one road that could be, Michael, and that's your road, Route 66.
Wow.
We want you to be our consultant. Let us bring you out here to California. So I thought, this is going to be good for the road. Well, it'll also be good for me, but it'll really be good for the road.
Yeah.
So I went out there, car picked me up at the airport. We drove down to Emeryville, there in the Bay Area. In a studio wall around, which looks like any other studio, like in Burbank or where. But when we went through the gates, it all changed. There were some people over here doing Tai Chi. There was some people having a brainstorming meeting, and then I later found out that this one area is where they have snowmaking machines, so the employees' kids can sleigh ride. And then I go into the headquarters building, an old deserted, redone fruit cannery. Just very industrial inside. And that's where I came to meet John Lasseter. When I walked in, the woman there at the desk said, "We are so excited you're here," and John's on his way down. And then I saw Lasseter, big round face, big smile, little wire glasses, different Hawaiian shirt every day, baggy cargo shorts. When I touched John's hand, I knew instinctively in my heart that if I cracked his chest open, I'd pull out a 10-year-old boy's heart.
Wow.
And we were off and running.
That's so cool.
I met everybody there that day. Steve Jobs wasn't there that day, but I met everybody else that day. All over. It was just fantastic. So talking about storytelling, at the end of the day, they're gonna take me out to dinner and take me, whatever. John said, "Can you talk to some more people in this room here?" And I said, "Sure." So he opened the door and there were like 40 people sitting in there and chairs, and there were a chair for me and John and water. And he had a camera set up. He said, "Do you mind if we film this?" And I said, "No, not at all." Because I knew I was that I'd get my agent and we'd put together the deal.
Yeah.
So I sat down and John leaned forward and he said, "Tell us a story about Route 66. So as I like to say, I reached back in my invisible quiver and pulled the story out and shot it out. And within seconds, I could see I had all of them. Some of them had their mouths open. And I love doing that. It wasn't a real long story, but it was just a story. And I finished it. And he leaned forward and said, "Tell us another." So I did. About 45 minutes later, I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I called time out and he said, "Oh yeah, we should go anywhere because we're going to dinner." But that's my start with them. And then I took the whole creative team out on the road. We made trips down the highway, usually in 3 big rented cars, often big old Cadillacs, Detroit sleds. Remember, no cell phones and stuff back then. Mm-hmm. But we were hooked up by a radio, and I'd ride shotgun in the lead car, and I would take them out. And the first day out, I called Suzanne at lunchtime, and I said, "This is great. These people are just like me. They like to stop all the time." And I stop sometimes on a road trip every 300, 400 yards. And we stop.
Even since you're a kid, it never stopped.
We stop all the time to move box turtles off the road. I had them dance into a big field of winter wheat. I had them pick wild grapes and eat them, get juice all over. I introduced them to people that I know they would never have met or found, and showed them places that they never would have known about. And so all of that went into the film, and all of the characters, the scenes are composites in the film. The canvas is from the high desert right around Gallup all the way out to probably Winslow. It's that high desert. But there are pieces of Route 66 from all
Yeah, you can see it.
the states there. And the characters are all drawn from people they were introduced to the road.
People that are on the road, characters on the road. Yeah.
A couple exceptions. One of the main inspirations for Sally, the little Porsche, was Dawn Welsh, who I introduced them to. We had a great time in Stroud, Oklahoma at the Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
And of course, during the trip, they said, "We really like your pipes, so we want you to be the sheriff of Radiator Springs." And that's what I eventually did when the trips were over. I got my SAG card, after card, and I went to town. And I still record for Disney and Pixar.
That's great.
As we speak. But the rest were composites of different people and characters. It was just great. And when that film came out, I had seen rushes and storyboards and everything, so I was very familiar with the storyline and liked it. But when I saw the finished project, they brought me out by myself, flew me into Burbank, and I went into the big Disney theater. And there were people there from Pixar and Disney, and they were hooked up to Emeryville. And this gal had a clipboard and everything. And they said, you're now gonna see the movie. And which I did, from opening credits, opening all the way through the credits. So they put me in this big theater, 50-yard line, right in the middle, gave me a jug of water and said, "Enjoy the show." And it comes up, the little bouncing Pixar, and I watched this whole movie. And I get up when it's over, and the screen goes dark, and I go to the door and open it and come out, and they're all there saying, "What did you think? What did you think?"
They're on pins and needles.
And this one gal was on the phone with Pixar, and I looked at them all, and I really couldn't speak. I started crying.
I mean, really.
I was just crying. I said, "We got it. You got it. It is so good." And they were...
that sigh of relief for them.
The sheriff likes it.
It's a go.
And the pivotal moment in that film is when Sally has Lightning McQueen up on that mesa, and they're looking out. And she said, "This is the way we used to travel." And you see that road of genius winding through, touching places.
I love that.
And the super slab plowing through places, the mesas and towns. And then Lightning can see the difference. And then it breaks into Sweet Baby James Taylor, singing Our Town, that great song, and it shows film of what it used to be like when Mater was whole and when everything was going. And that was the most important thing. After Cars 1 came out, I had a little, I appear in both 2 and 3, but I don't like 2 and 3 because they got off the road.
It didn't capture that first.
They did okay, but the first one undoubtedly the best. And right after I finished that, the Disney Imagineers took me on as a consultant, and I took them up and down the road, and I helped them create Cars Land. It's 12 acres of Radiator Springs come to life, and California Adventure in Anaheim, right next to Disneyland. And that, when people go there and they go in and they say, oh, this is the set. Oh, wait a minute, it's an animated film. Everything's there. Flo's Diner, the Cozy Cone, all of us are there.
Yeah.
Sarge's Quonset Hut. It's just wonderful. And I tell people how to behave on the ride, you know. No,
Yeah, you're the voice of authority there.
Yeah, voice of authority. Especially no tractor tipping. Okay? So it's just been a hoot. And
Wow.
I'm delighted. And when that came out, Business on Stretches of the Road, 20 years ago, 2006, went up 35%. But it turned on a whole bunch of new people, kids, and that continues today. Now a lot of those kids are growing up and have kids, and their kids are watching it.
That's me.
It goes on and on and on.
So that, you know, your voice and your tone is all over that movie, and it was an evolution of storytelling that once again got people out of the house and got them to create experiences and memories. So I guess when we're looking at moving forward with storytelling, how vital is it that we get it right and tell these stories and keep telling these stories so that, you know, the memory of these folks before us and these ideas continue on?
Oh, it's imperative. It's imperative. It must go on. Storytelling has to go on, and it will. There are so many, and there are so many ways to tell the story, as we've talked about, and it can be expressed in the arts. It can be expressed in more and more books and films, but it really can be expressed the best when you are out on the road. When you are out on the road and you're in the company of someone who works or ekes out a living on the road. Maybe they've been there for many years. Maybe they're brand new. And maybe you go to a place that you wanted to see and now it's gone. Well, you can't fret over that. There are ghost places on the road, and that's where I like to take people. I take them to a ghost place and tell them how I remember it when it was teeming with life. And then I point out, I say, you see over there, over that sagebrush, and you see little trucks that big going down Interstate 40. I said, there's the killer right there.
Yeah.
But a lot of those places are being revived, and there's so much new stuff. Again, I keep saying this, but it's so true. It's a work in progress.
Yes.
It changes all the time.
So you're hopeful for the future in Route 66?
I'm totally optimistic. Totally. Yeah.
Well, Michael, this has been incredible. It's been a dream of mine to talk to you. Thank you so much for spending some time with your busy schedule. And I hope I get to stop through one of my favorite places in the country, Tulsa, Oklahoma, to visit with you again.
Well, it's good to have you here. Sometime when I'm out on the road, I'll invite you up to Amarillo, and you and I will go in and we'll have a big Texan duel.
I love it.